How was you in school?
It depends who you ask. If you ask the PE teachers, I was dead good, but if you ask the maths teacher, I wasn't.
If you weren't doing boxing, what other job do you think you would have?
I used to really enjoy my youth worker job. I like to pretend that I'm down with the kids. And I'm a big kid myself.
If someone made a film about you, which actress would you pick to take your role?
Jonas, I'll tell you who I'd pick. Rihanna. That's who I'd pick.
And why is that reason?
Why is it? Because she's younger, she's fresher, and she's better.
Hello, welcome to KidsKast, episode 6. Today we have
Natasha Jonas.
and we're going to be asking her some questions. So Poppy, do you want to ask the first question? How many championships have you won?
As a professional, I've won one world title, but as an amateur, I've won lots of medals, like EUs, world championships, Europeans. So I've won quite a few. All together, I've won a few. But as a professional, I've only won one.
Okay. Well done with that. And would you like to fight me in a boxing match?
Well, would I like to fight you?
Yeah.
You've got an angel face, so probably not. But if you give me cheek, I will.
I probably would beat you, like. Do you want to ask a question now?
What team do you support, red or blue?
Oh, I'm a red.
Yes.
Yes, I've been to a lot of the games this year. I haven't always been able to get to them, but this year I've been to quite a few. I've been to a few finals in Wembley, and yeah, we're smashing it this year.
Yeah.
I've actually never been to a footy game, you know, like an actual one in person, but I've watched them and that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about supporting Liverpool?
Right now we're flying, aren't we? It's better being a red than a blue. So yeah, I'd be more devastated if I was a blue than a red right now. So yeah, it's a good time to be a red. I'm glad I'm a red.
Can you tell us about your background story?
My background story. So I come from just round the corner in Toxteth. I said I had 2 older boy cousins. I used to absolutely love them, and wherever they went and whatever they did, that's what I did. So because they were boys, they like climbed trees, played football and whatever. So I ended up being really good at football. School, I wasn't very good in school, like I said before. But I always did love sport, and I always wanted to do something in sport. And then, yeah, I went to America to play football. Thought I was going to be a professional football player. Thought I was going to have a house like they do on Cribs. Thought I was going to have a Bentley and £1 million, and I didn't. I got injured and came home, and then that's when I took up boxing. And yeah, I just tried it just to try it, and ended up being half all right at it.
If you keep on trying, girl, I'm sure you get it someday.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Who did you grow up with as a child?
Who did it what, sorry?
Who did you grow up with as a child?
Who did I grow up with? I grew up in a house with, my mum had me when she was very young. She was only 15. So she still lived with me nan. And my nan had some of her kids still living there. And I had 2 older boy cousins as well. So there was quite a few of us in my nan's house. And that's where I grew up.
How was you in school?
It depends who you ask. If you ask the PE teachers, I was dead good. But if you ask the maths teacher, I wasn't. I think, yeah, I never thought I was clever. I was always good at PE and sport, but I never ever thought I was clever, and so I never really tried. But then I wanted to go to an American university to play football, and I needed to get better, and I did. So it wasn't that I couldn't do it. I just didn't try. So yeah.
And what made you change to football to boxing?
I went to America and I was playing football and got injured, and it meant that I couldn't play footy anymore. So then when I came home, like I wasn't playing football. I had a injury which meant I had to wear like a Forrest Gump knee brace. And I put on a lot of weight. I lost loads of friends because I didn't play footy anymore. And then I lost loads of jobs because I couldn't be motivated to do anything because sport was kind of what I wanted to do. And when I thought that I couldn't do it anymore, I was unhappy for a long time. And then I decided that I needed to do something. And I started to go to my uncle's gym. And there used to be a woman that watched it for him. And she said, why you're always training by yourself? You should try boxing. And I used to think to myself, boxing, like, who wants to get punched in the face? But I didn't tell her that, and she bugged me for ages to go. And in the end, I thought, just to shut this woman up, I'm going to try it. So then the next time she asked me, I'm going to say, you know what, I didn't like it, but I ended up going and loving it. And that was 17 years ago, and I'm still boxing now.
Joe, when you walked into the gym to exercise, was there any boys there, and did you feel left out? It seems like there mightn't have been that much girls.
Yeah, so the first time, the gym that I went to the Rotunda, so you have 2 sessions in the Rotunda. One is for everybody, so that's like a keep fit session. So anybody and anybody is welcome. You don't have to be a boxer, you don't have to do anything. But when I started going to that one, they said, right, we think you're good enough to box. So then when you want to box, you have to go to the boxing session. Now the boxing session, I was the first girl to go into. So when I walked in the gym, everybody else was a boy. And I started like, when I was a little girl playing football, you know, like sometimes, like all the lads are all mates and they're all, like I used to go with my 2 older boy cousins, so they was a bit bigger. So because I was the little girl, I was always the last one picked. But I was probably better at football than the lads, but because I was the little girl, everyone just assumed that I'd be rubbish. And when I went into the boxing club the first time, I thought it was going to be like that. Like, I'd be going back to being that little girl, being the last one picked when everyone has to partner up and stuff. But I wasn't. So it was all what I had in my mind, not actually what happened. I just thought it would be like that, and it wasn't.
How old was you when you started boxing?
So I started boxing. I won my first title on my 21st birthday. I won my first ABA title, which means you're the champion of England. So I didn't start till I was like really old.
If you fighted Molly Meatball, do you think you would win?
Molly will kill me. If I fought with her in boxing, I'm a lot heavier than Molly, so
Go on, yeah, I know
yeah,
you will.
I'd probably win in boxing. But in MMA, I've actually sparred Molly, and after I sparred, I couldn't walk for about 2 days.
No offence, but I think you will win.
I've got to go down. Who's the hardest person you've ever fought in a fight?
People will expect me to say Katie Taylor, but it was probably, I change my mind all the time, but it was probably Devi I was fighting in the World Championships for the Olympics to try and qualify for the Olympics, and I had the world champion from the weight above who would come down, and that was my hardest fight. I literally threw more shots than ever before. I got punched about the place for 2 rounds, and it was just hard and horrible, and she made it hard and horrible, but I ended up winning in the end, and I qualified for the Olympics after that fight. So
if there's anyone from MMA that you'd fight, like, who would it be?
I'd go for the best. I almost thought I was gonna fight. Well, I was gonna build myself up to fight, you know, Cyborg. She used to be in the UFC. Yeah. So I almost was gonna do something which was gonna lead me to a path to fight her. But if you're gonna do something that hard, you may as well go for the best. So if I was gonna fight, it'd have to be Amanda Nunes or someone, or Molly.
I was having like a discussion with my mates the other day, and one was saying Khabib was better than Conor McGregor, and the other was saying the other. Who do you think's better?
Khabib.
I like Conor McGregor.
Yeah, like is different. Who's more liked? Then you'd probably say Conor McGregor, because the whole of Ireland and the whole of New York is like on his side. But who is the better fighter?
If it was like Muay Thai or something, Conor McGregor would win, but if it's grappling, then Khabib would win. Like, they have their own flaws.
I think Conor's got a better stand up, like a boxing style. Yeah. But Khabib is the better BJJ and wrestling. So he's like been wrestling bears or something, hasn't he, since he was about 7?
I swear, like, there's a video of him when he was only like 10, just like wrestling a baby.
Animals, yeah, it was, yeah.
It's I don't know why, but it's so cute, even though it's so dangerous.
How did you feel after finally winning your first Olympic game?
I felt amazing. I told my mum when I was 4 and I was watching the Olympic Games for that I can remember that I wanted to be there. And when I got to the Olympic Games, I was 28. So it took me 24 years, about 3 million sports, but I got there in the end because I believed in myself. So it felt good to finally make that dream come true.
Do you know when you was in the Olympic Games, was you the only girl there, or was the other girls competing?
So the lads in boxing have 10 weight divisions, and the girls had 3 in the 2012. So there was other girls at different weights, and there was obviously girls at my weight. And I think we had 12 or 10 participants, and the lads had 20 or something. So it was a big difference. But I wasn't the only girl, no.
What was it like being the first British female boxer to represent like the Olympics and that?
I felt that proud when you're the first to do something, like in a million years from now, and a question comes up about history and about the Olympics, and someone says, who was the first woman to ever box for Great Britain in the Olympics? Someone's going to say my name, because you can never change the first.
I probably will.
Exactly. And I think it's been a question on Question of Sport, and someone was messaged me and sent me it. So that's nice, because that'll never change. Like I'll always, there's going to be no one who's before me, so I'll always be the first.
How did you use your rejection from football to boxing?
How did I use it? It made me feel down for a long time, but then I used it as motivation when I started boxing, because I'd got so far and I'd got so good at football. I was already used to knowing what the mindset of an athlete was. You know, you have to be disciplined to play sport. You have to make sacrifices. You have to put yourself first. You have to be a little bit selfish sometimes. You have to, not go out with your mates and stuff. And because I'd done that in football already, when it came to boxing, I was already used to doing that. So I used that in boxing, and it put me in good stead, I think.
So like, what's it like coming from like a sporting family and that?
Our family is dead competitive. So if a kid in our family beats an adult, they beat them, because adults in our family don't let kids win. So I've got a sister who plays professional football for Arsenal and England. I've got a nephew who has signed a professional contract with Liverpool. So he plays for like Liverpool under 23s. He's played for England under 18s. I've got 2 nephews that play for Blackpool's youth team. I've got 2 girl cousins that have represented England for karate. And I've got a cousin who is a bodybuilder, a professional bodybuilder. And my brother is a professional in MMA. He was on Cage Warriors last week, knocking somebody out in 20 seconds. So we are a very, very sporty family, but we are ultra competitive. And I think that helps, because you have to be. Everything in our family is a competition.
Who inspired you, like, when you was doing boxing?
When I was doing boxing, I like Manny Pacquiao, because he has a big effect on everybody from the Philippines when he boxes, and he uses his platform positively. And I think that's really important that you do that. But who inspires me in life is my mum and my nan, because there's so many things that I could have been and probably should have been, and they didn't let me do that. They always made me stay true to myself and
stick with your dreams.
Stick with my dreams and let me do that, and they sacrificed some things so I could do that. So they're my inspirations as a mum and as a woman.
What's your biggest achievement so far?
I think my biggest achievement is having my little girl. Even though she drives me insane, that's the best title that I have, is mum.
What is your daughter's name?
Mila.
Oh, that's a nice name.
Nice one. Took us ages to pick it.
How does it feel to be an inspirational young local female sports star?
I don't ever think that I am. I don't set out and think, right, I'm going to inspire somebody today. But sometimes you do stuff and people appreciate what you do and they like what you do and they think, wow, she's a little bit like me. I think if she can do it, I can do it. So that's a good feeling to know that. But I never really set out to do that. I'm just following what I want to do, really.
Have you ever mentored some kids?
Yeah, I try and help as many people as possible. I go into loads of schools, primary and secondary schools, and then sometimes boxers will message me on social media and say, like, I need help with this, and I'll always try and help them. Because I think it's important. If you're able to help someone, you should.
What is the best thing about boxing in your opinion?
The best thing about boxing is that I don't have to rely on anybody else. Sometimes in football, like, I believe that I give 100%. Like, I always tried my best in every game that I ever played. And sometimes some of my other team wouldn't, and it'd annoy the life out of me because I'd be like, well, I'm trying, why aren't you? But in boxing, I don't have to do that. It's just about how good you try. I don't have to rely on anybody else to win.
Are you happy with your choice about like choosing boxing?
I am now. I've got a good life from boxing, and it's given me lots of opportunities. I remember I said before about taking your opportunities when they come. So, like, I haven't been to university. Well, been to university, but I've never finished. I haven't got a good academics like degree or anything, but I'm still as far ahead as some people that have. And that's only through taking the opportunities and being a nice person along the way. So,
Did, like, a few years ago, did you think that you'll ever get this far? Like, from where you are now?
I never knew how far I could get because I never knew what the best was. I didn't, like, once I thought when I was starting and I started boxing, I thought if I get chose to box for the club, that's the best that can happen. And then I was allowed to box for the club, and then he said, okay, you can go in the championships to see if you're the best in England. And then I went and I was the best in England. So then England said, right, we're going to take you to competitions around the world to see if you can be the best in the world. And then I won them. And then the Olympics said, right, we're going to have an Olympics and we want the best in the world to be involved in it. And then I was in the Olympics. And then I got to professional and they're like, okay, there was bumps in the road, but they say, okay, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a world champion. And then I got to be a world champion. So I never knew how far I could get because I didn't know what the best was. But I just knew that I kept on going, wanted to keep on going and keep on going.
Like, if you could still choose to do football today, would you do it or would you stick with boxing? Today,
I'd stick with boxing. But if you had asked me a couple of years ago, then I'd have chose footy because that was the one I loved best.
What was your favourite subject in school except from like PE?
My favourite subject? I was actually quite good at English. And I'll tell you why I was good at English. Because in maths, if you get 2 add 2, the answer has to be 4. But in English, if they say, what does this word mean to you? And as long as I could explain why it meant that to me, you can't be wrong in English as long as you can explain why. But your reason why and my reason why might be 2 different reasons. But as long as you can explain it, then you can't be wrong. So I was always better at English because I couldn't be wrong, as long as I just explained myself well.
Was you ever a troublemaker in school?
You know what? I can't say I was a troublemaker. And it definitely wasn't a bully. But now, as an adult, and I look back, I sometimes laughed when kids were being mean to other kids. So I wasn't a bully. but then I kind of wasn't helping either. And I wasn't a troublemaker, but sometimes I'd always be in that crowd, like, and I'd be there and I'd be laughing and I'd be doing stuff, like, so I never actually caused the trouble or was a bully, but I was always in and around it, do you know what I mean? And sometimes that's just as bad. If you're watching someone being bullied and you're laughing, then you're just as bad as the person who's bullying them.
Did you ever get bullied in school?
I remember so it was in my primary school, like literally, there was 2 people in every year that was related to me. So nobody really ever bothered us because it was just a headache if you did, because there was always someone bigger and someone, you know. So no, not really. But I remember someone not saying something about the colour of my skin, and I wasn't very happy about it, and I ended up getting. I didn't get expelled, but I nearly did because of it, because of how I reacted to it.
That's so mean now.
Yeah.
Did you ever fight much in school?
Not really in school, but I was always fighting with, like, competitively with lads to try and prove that I was just as good. Like I said before, when you're that little girl, everyone's like, oh, she's the girl, not picking her, she's not being on my team. But then we'd play the big game of football and I'd be better than the lads.
Nowadays, they wouldn't want to pick you anyway, because you just knocked them out, innit?
Oh, aye. But I think there's when you know that you can protect yourself and defend yourself, there's a confidence in you that knows that you don't have to show off and do that. So a lot of boxers, I'd like to think anyway, I don't have to go round the school pretending to be the big hard knock at the school just because of box. When you know you can fight and you know you've got that, then you don't have to show it. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. If you was to mentor, what would you mentor?
What would I mentor? Depends on the person. Some people, not everyone wants to be a sports person, and I get that. But I think there's lots of stuff that I've been through in my life that's not just about sport. So, I have failed, and I have, had no money, and I have, I've been in certain situations that wasn't good. And I think it's not always about the sport. Yes, I've been successful, and yes, I've done very well in the sport, but I've had a whole life before sport. So I think I can relate to a lot of people on a lot of different areas. So, yeah.
How did you get used to mentoring? Like, what did you do in that?
I used to be a youth worker, and then I used to work on a programme for Sky Sports called Living for Sport, and we used to go into schools and mentor like a certain group of young people, and we'd follow their progress and go round. I've worked in youth clubs, I've worked, just them things really, going into schools and working for Sky and doing the youth work.
Do you know the kids that you mentored? Have they ever thought of doing boxing since you've been doing it?
I think there's a lot of kids that have gone on. I think some of the girls in our gym now, because for a very long time I was the only girl in the gym, and now when I go back, I think there's about 7. So some of them watched the Olympic Games and see me, Nikki, Savannah on there, and thought I want to do boxing like her. So there's some people like that, but then there's other people where I've seen them in schools, or I've seen them through the youth work, and then I've seen them, like, I seen one lad who we used to do group work with, like group youth work with, and like he was always all right with us, but he used to be getting into trouble with the police or whatever, and now he's doing really well. I seen him in town not so long ago, and he's doing really well. He's got a good job, and he's starting his own little family. So it's nice to see people grow up and mature and to be successful adults.
Have you ever got in trouble with the police?
Do you want me to tell the truth, or do you want me to tell a lie?
I'd say the truth.
Yeah, I've been in trouble with the police a couple of times. I've never been charged with anything, I don't think. Not that I know of anyway. So I've been lucky. But yeah, it's just silly situations that I got myself into that I didn't need to. And that's why, you know, your friends and who you choose are very important sometimes.
Do you know if like boxing and football didn't exist, what would you be doing like right now?
Talking to you still. I don't know.
Do you know, like, did you ever relate to much of the kids that you mentored and that?
Yeah, I think I always try and like mentor in and around my area. Like I think it's important that people from Liverpool see other people from Liverpool being successful. I have been to London and done some stuff down in London, but it doesn't like I don't ever get to follow that up, or I don't ever get to see. Whereas in Liverpool, like I see it as I'm not trying to change the world, but I'm trying to change my little part of it. And Liverpool's my part. That's where I'm from. That's where I grew up. That's where I'll probably stay for the rest of my life. So, like, I want to see us be better. Do you know what I mean?
What made you want to go into mentoring youth?
Because I think it's important that people share their experiences and understand that everyone's life is not like yours, and to take the good parts and the bad parts and try and make the good parts more and the bad parts less. You know, and I think we should all do that. We should, you know, just try and be happier as a city and come together on things and make it better for the ones that are coming after us. So, you know, there's things in my generation that weren't good. So we should try and fix them so that it doesn't happen in your generation and it gets better. And you should try and fix them for the generation that comes after you. Does that make sense?
If someone made a film about you, which actress would you pick to take your role?
Do you want me to tell you who I'd pick? Rihanna. That's who I'd pick.
And why is that reason?
Why is it? Because she's younger, she's fresher, and she's better. And she'd make me look good.
Does she act like you?
I would like to, in my mind, when I'm in the shower or when I'm in town dancing away and I'm drunk, I think I can sing and dance like her, but I probably in real life can't, like you've just seen from the TikTok.
I think everyone in the shower like always dances and sings in there.
Definitely.
See one of those moves?
Oh God, definitely not. Unless you're gonna give me a bottle of gin.
Yeah.
Give me a bottle of gin,
Yeah.
I'll do it.
I'll give
right
you
now.
50. I'll give you £1. How do you think Rihanna would do on the boxing scenes?
How do you think she would do? I don't know, you know, I reckon she's got loads of hidden talents that she doesn't show people. And I can always train her anyway. So I'll make her good. She's got to play me. She's got to be good if she's going to play me.
Obviously.
Obviously.
You probably beat them, Kay. What do you do outside of boxing?
Outside of boxing? Not very much. It takes up my whole day. But I try and spend as much time with my family because I miss out on loads of stuff. Like, because I'm always dieting and I'm always training, that sometimes I miss out on weddings and birthdays and celebrations. So I try and spend as much of it with my family as I can. And then I just like, you know, I like doing things like going out with my mates and stuff. Have you ever been drunk and fallen over? Truth?
Yeah.
Oh, truth? Yes. I was actually thinking, do you know what? This is no word of a lie. You can ask any one of my cousins. I was actually pretending to be Rihanna and I fell over.
We have to see the Rihanna move. Come on, please.
I can't.
What if Rihanna was watching this right now? What if? You never
She'd
know.
be embarrassed.
What's your favourite Rihanna song?
Right now is trying to think of what it's called. I'm singing it in my head. This is the one I fell to as well.
Make like the sound of it.
Right
like
there.
hum it or something.
Come on, girl. Just sing
Wild
it.
Thoughts.
Wild Thoughts. What's it like?
I'm not singing it.
No, just like humming or something like.
Nothing of it. Oh, yeah.
Someone play Wild Thoughts.
Oh, my God, that's hand.
I told you.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
tune. So I was with.
I've actually never heard
They
it.
literally went walking and you fell over.
I was because on the video with Bryson Tiller, she like walks in, and like, so I was walking in. I heard it in the club as I was coming down, and then my mates were all over there. So it's like a joke that I do it. So I walked over to my mate, but as I done it, I like stepped in water and went.
Did you ever give up, or did you just think, no, I'm not going to give up?
Good question. There's loads of times in my life when I've wanted to give up, but then an opportunity came, and I think I always take my opportunities, because if they don't work out, like I had an opportunity to go to America and play football, and then I ended up getting injured and I didn't end up being a professional football player that I wanted to be. But like now as an adult, I sit and look back and say, well, at least I went. But I'd hate to sit here and say, I wonder what had happened if I didn't. So I think you should always take your opportunities and do them to the best you can. So I've loads of times that things haven't gone right, that I've just wanted to think. I just thought, like after football and it was finished, I was like, oh, there's nothing else I can do. Everybody else is like Wayne Rooney was young and Katarina Johnson-Thompson was young, and they were all like famous. And I was thinking, if I was going to be famous, I'd already be famous by now. But there was just something inside me that didn't want to give up yet. So I was lucky.
How many Olympic Games have you won?
I've been to one, which was in 2012, which was probably before you were born.
It was when I was born.
Was it? 2012, yeah. So as you were being born, I was trying to win Olympic medals. Madness.
Do you have a big mansion and are you rich?
I'm far from rich and I'm far from got a big mansion, but it's my castle. So.
Do you ever think you're going to be rich and have a big mansion?
I'd like to think so, but do you know what? I like. My nan's got like a nice house round the corner in Toxteth, and it's not a mansion, but it's a nice big house, and I'd like to have that one day. And just because of more the memories that it holds than anything else, I don't think just being rich and having a mansion is like, it looks good, but you have to make things a home. So I think if you're going to live somewhere, it has to be home and have good memories and have a good feeling about it, which my nan's does, because that was the place I grew up and that was the best memories that I can remember.
Has anyone stopped you by in town asking you questions?
Sometimes, so I work on Sky Sports and talk about boxing. So sometimes people see me on Sky Sports or they'll see me box, and then the next few days after that, like if I'm around town, they'll look and they'll go, as if to say, I've seen her face somewhere, and they don't really quite know where they've seen it. But yeah, that's it. I'm not famous.
If you weren't doing boxing, what other job do you think you would have?
I used to really enjoy my youth worker job. I like to pretend that I'm down with the kids. And I'm a big kid myself, so I think that I work well with them. So I probably would still do that.
Do you think you'll be a champion one day?
I'd like to get more belts, yeah. I'm a world champion right now, but I want to get more. I think there's 4 recognised belts. I've only got 1, so I want the other 3.
Do you think you'll like to go back to football and start doing it?
If you'd asked me that about 5 years ago, I probably would have said yeah. But I'm not good enough now. I tried to play a little game a couple of years ago, and I'm not fit enough for football anymore.
Gail, don't worry, I think you are. I think you'll be bossing it.
Nice one.
If you could go back to my age, what would you change or something?
Ooh, you know what? I think everything that I've ever done and ever been through has made me the person who I am. So even the good things and the bad things, So I wouldn't change anything, but what I would tell myself is to keep going. And like I never really, none of my like girl mates wanted to play footy, but it didn't bother me that they didn't, because I did. And like I just kept on doing what I wanted to do, which not many girls can. Sometimes you feel a little bit pressured just to do things, to do what everybody else was doing. But I stuck with what I wanted to do, so I did that instead. And I think that's a really important quality to have as you get older.
Where do you see yourself in the happiest times?
In 5 years' time, oh gosh, I would like to think in 5 years' time I would be doing lots of sports for Sky, and speaking about not just boxing, but maybe the football, maybe the darts, maybe the netball, maybe whatever, because I like loads of sports, so I'd like to think that I'd be doing that.
If you could say something to the world, what do you think it would be?
Be nice. Be nice. So many people are just nasty for no reason. You can put a picture up and people will say, oh, you look terrible, or you know, you do a dance and people say you're not doing it right, and people are just nasty for no reason. And there's what do you get out of being nasty for someone?
It's like if someone wants to do a dance different from what it's supposed to be, like just let them do their own business.
Exactly. Like it doesn't matter if like people are obsessed the way people look, the way people act, just let them be who they want to be.
Is there a quote on this that you feel most important about for kids to believe in?
Is there a quote? Was
Or
that
message?
a quote? So the biggest message the biggest asset I think I've got is that I always believe in myself, even when nobody else does. And my granddad used to tell me a saying, you get 3 names in life. One that you're given, which is like the one that your parents give you. One you inherit, which is your family name. And then one you make for yourself. So that's who you want to be, and you go out and be somebody and do good things.
Thank you for joining us today, girl. It was boss, and KidsKast is just like boom. I don't know.